We're terminating your employment effective immediately. For cause. Ryan Whitaker, our CEO, slid a folder across the conference table. His lawyer sat beside him, expression carefully blank. I didn't touch the folder. Didn't need to. For cause, I repeated. Interesting. What cause would that be? Performance issues, failure to meet departmental objectives, creating a hostile work environment through your management style. I almost laughed. Almost. Ryan, I've exceeded every objective for 7 consecutive years. My department has the highest employee satisfaction scores in the company, and I literally wrote the definition of hostile work environment in our policies. The decision is final, Claire. Your access has been revoked. Security will escort you out. And my equity? My vested shares? Ryan's jaw tightened. Just slightly, but I caught it. Termination for cause forfeits unvested equity. You know that. You wrote that policy. There it was. The real reason. My shares were scheduled to fully vest in 6 weeks. After 7 years of building this company's entire HR infrastructure, I was finally going to see the payoff. At current valuation, those shares were worth $1.2 million, and Ryan was trying to steal them with a fake termination. I did write that policy, I agreed, in 2018, along with the rest of the employee handbook. Then you understand. I also wrote Section 9. Ryan stopped mid-sentence. His lawyer looked confused. Section 9? I pulled out my own folder, the one I'd prepared 3 weeks ago when I first noticed the signs, the sudden performance reviews, the manufactured complaints, the paper trail being built against me. Section 9, subsection 4, paragraph C. I opened the handbook to a bookmarked page. In the event that an employee with over 5 years of tenure is terminated for cause within 90 days of a vesting event, the company must provide documented evidence of cause to an independent arbitrator within 48 hours. Failure to do so automatically converts the termination to without cause status and accelerates all pending equity vesting. Dead silence. Furthermore, I continued, if the arbitrator determines that the termination was pretextual or in bad faith, the affected employee is entitled to compensatory damages equal to their department's annual operating budget. Ryan's face had gone pale. That's not in the handbook. Page 47. I can wait while you check. The lawyer was already flipping pages. I watched his expression shift from confusion to concern to something approaching panic. This language is highly unusual, he managed. I wrote it in 2018 after watching our previous CFO try the same trick on 3 different employees. The board approved it without reading carefully. They trusted me. I closed my folder. So here's where we are, Ryan. You have 48 hours to provide documented evidence of cause to an independent arbitrator. If you can't, my termination converts to without cause status and accelerates all pending equity vesting. I stood up. And if the arbitrator determines this was pretextual, which it obviously was, given that I have emails showing you discussing how to manufacture a paper trail against me, Ryan's face went from pale to green. Then, according to Section 9, you owe me my department's entire annual operating budget, which, as you know, is $1.2 million. I walked toward the door. You tried to steal from me $1.2 million by firing me with a fake cause. Instead, you might end up paying me $1.2 million in damages plus my original shares. I paused at the threshold. The $1.2 million mistake. That's what they'll call it, when everyone finds out that the CEO forgot that the VP of People Operations literally wrote the rules. I smiled. Have your lawyers call my lawyers. You have my number. I walked out.
past the security guard who was supposed to escort me, past the stunned receptionist, past 7 years of my life in that building. My hands were shaking by the time I reached my car, the adrenaline, the fury, the terror of what I'd just done, but also something else: satisfaction. Now, before I tell you how I saw this coming, how I prepared, and how Ryan Whitaker ended up writing me a very large check, I want to pause for a second. If you've ever built something with your own hands, if you've ever watched someone try to take credit for your work, if you've ever felt like the system was designed to benefit everyone except the people who actually make things run, you're going to understand exactly why I did what I did. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. We're so close, and every single person who joins helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them. People like you, people who've been underestimated, people who've had to fight for what they earned. So hit that subscribe button right now. Be part of the community. I promise the rest of this story is worth it. Now, let me tell you how a working mom of 2 wrote a single paragraph in 2018 that would save her $1.2 million in 2024. I'm Claire Morgan. I was 39 when Ryan Whitaker decided my equity was worth more than my dignity. Married to David for 14 years, 2 kids, Emma, 12, Lucas, 9, a house in the suburbs with a mortgage that felt manageable, and a life that felt full. I'd worked at Meridian Technologies for 7 years, joined when we were a scrappy startup of 40 people operating out of a converted warehouse, watched us grow to 600 employees, 3 offices, and a valuation that made early employees like me very interested in their equity packages. My title was VP of People Operations, which is a fancy way of saying I handled everything related to humans at the company: hiring, firing, policies, benefits, culture, the invisible infrastructure that kept hundreds of people working together without killing each other. I built our entire HR system from scratch, wrote every policy, designed every process, created the employee handbook that defined how we operated, including Section 9. The thing about writing corporate policies is that nobody reads them. Seriously, executives approve documents that are hundreds of pages long without reviewing anything except the summary. Board members sign off on handbooks they've never opened. They trust that the person writing the policies is acting in the company's best interest, which I was, mostly, but I was also acting in employees' best interest, and sometimes those interests conflicted. In 2018, I watched our CFO at the time, a man named Gerald Hastings, systematically push out 3 senior employees right before their equity vested. Same playbook every time: sudden performance issues, manufactured complaints, termination for cause that conveniently voided their shares. It was theft, legal theft, but theft. I couldn't stop Gerald, he outranked me, but I could change the rules. So when I rewrote the employee handbook that year, I added Section 9, the protection clause for long-term employees facing suspicious terminations: independent arbitration, automatic conversion to without cause if evidence wasn't provided, and the nuclear option: compensatory damages equal to the department budget if bad faith was proven. I buried it on page 47, used legal language dense enough that nobody would read carefully, presented it as standard liability protection during the board meeting. They approved it in 12 minutes. Gerald left the company a year later. I almost forgot about Section 9, until Ryan Whitaker decided I was his next target. Ryan became CEO 3 years ago. He was different from our previous leadership, more corporate, more political, more focused on optimizing everything, which is corporate speak for cutting costs and consolidating power. Over 3 years, I watched him push out a dozen long-term employees, always right before their equity vested, always with manufactured justifications, always with just enough documentation to make it look legitimate. I knew I was on his list, I just didn't know when. The sign started 6 months ago. Sudden exclusion from executive meetings I'd attended for years. new KPIs that were impossible to meet, junior employees being encouraged to file complaints about my management style. The classic paper trail, building the case. I started preparing immediately. First, I documented everything. Every meeting I was excluded from, every unreasonable demand, every complaint that contradicted previous feedback. Second, I found allies, other employees who'd noticed what Ryan was doing, people who were willing to testify if needed. Third, I reread the handbook I'd written 6 years earlier, made sure Section 9 was still intact, made sure nobody had quietly removed it during updates. It was still there. Page 47, my insurance policy. And fourth, I waited. 3 weeks before the termination meeting, I got what I needed. An email that Ryan accidentally sent to the wrong distribution list. An email discussing how to build a case against Claire that would stand up to scrutiny. He was planning my destruction, in writing. I saved that email in 3 separate locations. Then, I waited for him to make his move. The 48 hours after that conference room confrontation were tense. I drove home in a daze, walked through my front door at 3:30 p.m., hours before I'd normally be home. David looked up from his laptop, confused. "You're early. Everything okay?" I sat down across from him, told him everything: the termination, the equity theft, Section 9, the confrontation. He listened without interrupting. That's one of the things I love about him. He processes before reacting. "So you wrote a policy 6 years ago specifically to protect yourself from this situation?" "Not specifically myself, any employee, but yes." "And they didn't read it before approving it?" "Nobody reads HR policies, ever." He was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "My wife is a genius." "I'm a paranoid genius. There's a difference." Emma came home from school an hour later. Lucas was at soccer practice. We decided not to tell them anything yet. No need to worry them about something that might resolve quickly. It didn't resolve quickly. Ryan's lawyers called my lawyer the next morning. They wanted a meeting to discuss a mutually agreeable separation, which meant they'd read Section 9, and they were scared. My lawyer, Patricia Vance, was a former employment law judge who'd seen every corporate trick in the book. I'd hired her 2 weeks before the termination when I first realized what was coming. "They're panicking," she told me on the phone. "The email you have, the one where he discusses manufacturing a case against you, that's a smoking gun. If this goes to arbitration, he loses. Badly." "What are they offering?" "They haven't said yet, but I'm guessing they'll try to buy your silence, pay out the original equity, make you sign an NDA, pretend none of this happened." "That's not enough." "I know. You want Section 9 damages." "I want what I'm owed, the full amount, not because I'm greedy, because Ryan needs to learn that actions have consequences." Patricia laughed. "I like you, Claire. Most clients want to settle quickly and move on. You want justice." "I want both, but I'm not accepting less than what the handbook says I'm entitled to." The meeting happened 2 days later. Ryan's lawyers, my lawyer, a conference room at Patricia's firm. No Ryan. He didn't have the courage to face me. His lead attorney, a man named Stewart, started with the expected offer. Full vesting of Claire's equity, immediate payout at current valuation, neutral reference letter, standard NDA. Patricia looked at me. I shook my head. "That's not acceptable," Patricia said. "My client is entitled to Section 9 damages. The termination was clearly pretextual. We have documented evidence of bad faith." Stewart shifted uncomfortably. "Section 9 damages are only triggered if an arbitrator determines bad faith. We haven't reached that stage." "Then let's reach that stage." Patricia pulled out a folder. "We're prepared to file for arbitration this afternoon, along with a complaint to the State Labor Board and a civil suit for equity fraud." Stewart's face tightened. "That seems aggressive.
Your client tried to steal $1.2 million from my client by manufacturing false cause for termination. That seems aggressive too. Silence stretched across the table. What does Miss Morgan want? Stewart finally asked. Patricia looked at me. This was my moment. I want full equity vesting, immediate payout, Section 9 damages, the full $1.2 million, a public acknowledgement that my termination was improper, and Ryan Whitaker's resignation. Stewart almost choked. His resignation? That's not. He's been doing this to employees for 3 years. I'm not the first. I'm just the first who protected myself. I leaned forward. If this goes public, if the other employees he pushed out realize what happened, you'll be facing a class action, not just my claim. I pulled out my own folder. Pages of documentation. I've been keeping records. Every suspicious termination since Ryan became CEO, every employee pushed out right before vesting, every manufactured performance issue. I slid the folder across the table. 12 employees. Approximately $8 million in stolen equity combined. Stewart stared at the folder like it might bite him. This information goes to the labor board and the press if we don't reach an agreement today, or you can pay what you owe me, remove Ryan quietly, and hope the other 11 employees don't figure out what I've figured out. The lawyers asked for a recess. They were gone for 2 hours. When Stewart returned, he looked like a man who'd aged 10 years during a bathroom break. We need to discuss your demands with the board. This decision is above my pay grade. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow. After that, I file everything I have. That's not enough time. It's more time than Ryan gave me. I was terminated immediately, remember? Escorted out by security after 7 years. I stood up. 5 p.m. tomorrow. Make it count. I went home, picked Lucas up from soccer, helped Emma with her science project, made dinner with David while the kids did homework. Normal life, as if I wasn't waiting for a multi-million-dollar decision. That night, after the kids were in bed, David and I sat on the porch with wine. What if they don't agree? He asked. Then we fight. Arbitration, court, whatever it takes. That could take years. I know, but I can't let them win. Not just for me, for every employee Ryan has done this to, for every person who's going to come after me if he stays. David was quiet for a moment. You know I support you, whatever you decide. I know, but I'm also proud of you, for standing up, for writing that policy 6 years ago even when it wasn't about you, for protecting people. I leaned against his shoulder. I wrote Section 9 because I was angry, watching Gerald steal from people, knowing I couldn't stop him directly. I took a sip of wine. I didn't know I was protecting myself. I was just trying to fix a broken system. And now the broken system is protecting you. Funny how that works. The call came at 4:47 p.m. the next day. Patricia. They agreed. All of it. I sat down, legs suddenly meek. All of it? Full equity vesting, Section 9 damages, $1.2 million paid within 30 days, and Ryan Whitaker submitted his resignation to the board this morning. I couldn't speak. Claire, you there? I'm here. I didn't think they'd actually.
They didn't have a choice. The documentation you gathered was devastating. 12 employees, $8 million in stolen equity. If that went public, the company would face investigations, lawsuits, potential criminal charges for fraud. So they paid me to go away? They paid you what you were owed. There's a difference. Patricia's voice softened. You won, Claire, not just for yourself. Ryan's gone. The board is launching an internal review of every termination he oversaw. Some of those other employees might get their equity back too. I thought about Gerald Hastings, about Section 9, about a paragraph I'd written 6 years ago, buried on page 47 that nobody had read. Thank you, Patricia. Thank yourself. You're the one who saw this coming. You're the one who prepared. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time,
thinking about what had almost happened, how close I'd come to losing everything, how Ryan had looked at me across that conference table, so confident that he was about to steal my future. He forgot the most basic rule of corporate power. The person who writes the rules controls the game. 3 months later, life looks different. The money hit my account exactly when they promised, $1.2 million in damages plus $1.2 million in vested equity. After taxes and Patricia's fees, David and I still had more than we'd ever imagined. We paid off the mortgage, set up college funds for Emma and Lucas, took a family vacation to Italy that we'd been dreaming about for years, and I started something new. A consulting firm specializing in employee protection, helping companies build policies that actually work for workers, not just executives, helping employees understand their rights before they need to fight for them. Turns out there's a market for someone who's been through what I've been through, someone who knows how corporations think, someone who can spot the warning signs before it's too late. I got a call last month from one of the 12 employees Ryan had pushed out, Sarah, a former engineering director. She'd heard about what happened, about Section 9, about the review the board was conducting. "They're offering me a settlement," she said, "retroactive equity vesting, about $400,000. I told her, take it. It's less than you deserve, but it's more than you had. I don't know how to thank you if you hadn't fought, if you hadn't kept those records. Thank Section 9, I just wrote it down." But we both knew that wasn't quite true. David and I talked about it one night, about luck versus preparation, about whether I'd been smart or just fortunate. "Both," he said. "You were smart enough to write the protection, and fortunate that you were the one who needed it, not someone who didn't know it existed." He was right. Most of those 12 employees had no idea Section 9 existed. They'd signed the handbook without reading it, just like everyone else. When they were pushed out, they had no idea they had options. That's what haunts me. How many people get steamrolled because they don't know the rules exist? So that's part of what I do now, educating people, helping them understand that policies aren't just bureaucratic paperwork. They're tools, weapons, protections. If you wrote them, you control them. If you understand them, you can use them. And if you don't read them, you're at the mercy of people who did. But I did, and it saved me. That's not luck. That's preparation meeting opportunity. That's understanding that the game is rigged and rigging it back. Ryan Whitaker thought he could fire me on a Tuesday and steal my future. He thought I was just another employee who'd go quietly, who'd accept the injustice because fighting seemed too hard. He forgot that I wrote the rules, and according to Section 9, his rules were actually my rules all along. If you've made it this far, thank you. Really, thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this story gave you something. Hope, anger, motivation to protect yourself, whatever you needed today. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so close, and every person who joins helps us keep sharing these stories. Stories about people who fought back, people who refused to be steamrolled, people who learned the hard way that nobody will protect you if you don't protect yourself. Hit that subscribe button, be part of this community, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. The friend going through a rough situation at work, the family member who's being pushed out, the colleague who doesn't know their rights. They need to know that the system can be beaten, that the rules can work for them, that sometimes the person who writes the handbook wins. Drop a comment telling me your story. I read every single one, usually while drinking coffee and thinking about Section 9. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. And remember, always read page 47. You never know what you might find.